Hi, everyone. Welcome to Women 50 Plus Talk. I'm Sue West. And if you're new to Flourish After 50, welcome. It's great to have you. And if you've joined us before, welcome back. I'm joined today by Natalia Smith as part of the Empowered Transition series. Natalia, you and I met probably nearly 2 years ago. I was trying to think about this the other day. Natalia is the director of TruWealth Advice, a financial planning company that she founded at the age of 31. She specializes in assisting pre-retiree single women, whether they've been never married, widowed, separated, or divorced. And she understands deeply the importance of financial stability during significant life transitions. And I was drawn to Natalia when I was starting Flourish After 50 because we share this commitment to empowering women. So I'm really, really pleased to introduce you to her today. And I look forward to hearing your insights, Natalia, about financial independence and your strategies for empowering women to begin um, your strategies for empowering women. But to begin with, you experienced a major life transition of your own in 2001. Can you tell us a bit about this time?
Hello. Yes, absolutely. I moved to Australia in 2001. I flew the same night as 9/11 happened, and
Wow.
fortunately, I ended up in Australia. And it was a major transition in my life. It was really interesting. I was still quite young, but at the same time, I didn't know too many people. I couldn't speak much English, and I really sort of struggled at the very start. My degree wasn't recognized. So I had to really reinvent myself. And as a result of all of that, I ended up in financial planning. And I guess now I'm extremely fortunate to be able to help so many other women out there and put them on their journey of financial freedom. So that's my passion and I love it.
Yeah, thank you. And so tell us about your journey to starting True Wealth Advice, because I know that you've done a range of worked for other companies, but now you are the owner of this company. So tell us, how did you get to this point?
As I've mentioned, my psychology degree hasn't been recognized, unfortunately. So at that time, when I just moved to Australia, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And I had a friend who was a financial advisor, and he encouraged me to try this new, and that was 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago, encourage a new industry that was emerging. I got into financial planning industry as an assistant to a financial advisor, did my advanced diploma in financial planning, then went back to uni and did a master's in business banking finance, and worked for a lot of different companies. I've worked for IPAC, that was quite a well-known financial planning firm that got sold to AMP or AXA and then AMP. Worked for ING Financial Planning, and my last place of employment was Macquarie Private Wealth, where I have helped it's sort of, again, a lot of different types of clients on their journey. And approaching 31, I thought, I've learned, everything that I could so far over the last 10 years. And I wanted to have that work-life flexibility, starting a family and doing things that my own way. So I took that leap of faith and decided to start my own business.
I love that, and you've really backed yourself, and I love what you do. I see your business promotion on LinkedIn all of the time, and you promote such positive messages. What what was it that drew you to specifically work with women as your clients?
It was fascinating how when I started my business, I didn't have that niche. I really was just helping everyone. Like very probably the majority of business owners, they start with any friends and family at the start. Over the years, I've noticed that more and more clients of mine were women, and also it was just the demand for financial advisors increased and female financial advisors as well. So it was just really interesting how women traditionally don't play an active role in managing financial affairs. So that's something that I've observed, and potentially not being involved was taking them on their journey where at some point they we're not in a position of retiring, or we're in this sort of a somewhat not a very effective way to actually manage their financial affairs, particularly if they're faced with life events like death of a partner, or they separate from their partners. So it's interesting how it kind of led me to this niche, and I completely enjoy. I love working with women, and it's a journey. You do see the transition. They're moving from being very stressed and anxious about money to becoming quite relaxed and happy, and seeing that spark in their eyes where they just really appreciate that what they've done and how far they've come as well, and that it's just really satisfying.
It sounds like it. So when you have clients who are women over 50, who is the audience um, for this conversation, what are some of the typical things you would see women present, or challenges that women present with?
I think a lot of it is lack of knowledge, and maybe financial literacy being not really at that standard. Also, I see a lot of insecurity when it comes to managing financial affairs, or lack of confidence. And in a lot of cases, women come to me and they say, look, I don't like maths, or I don't like numbers. I don't know anything about financials. But as soon as you start talking to them about how they manage their cash flow, it does, it's apparent that actually they do know quite a bit, but they lack that confidence. They think that they can't do it. So that's really common. It's that
Mm,
confirmation that they're seeking. So that's one aspect. And also, quite unfortunately, very common for them not to be involved, particularly if they used to outsource a lot of those financial decisions to their maybe husbands and or partners, and really not being involved, not knowing what was happening, trusting blindly, and then maybe having a life event like such as divorce, and realizing that they've missed out on all of those years of knowing education, and they're quite scared that how they're going to do it now, how they're going to manage it, because they've never done it before. So it is a really it's an emotional part, emotional stage they're going through, and that's where we come in. We really hold their hand, we really help them understand the basics, and also sometimes confirm that they are on the right track, or if there is anything else they can do better. That's kind of where that role us we take that role as I suppose as a bit of a coach and a financial advisor. Yeah.
So it sounds like women who come to you are at a point of major change in their lives, so something's happened and that's brought them into a situation where they're now needing to manage their own finances and understand it. And as you said, they're often feeling like they're not necessarily across the detail or confident in their approach. So how do you support them to move into a more empowered position?
We always start with understanding their emotional needs. And this is where I guess my psychology background comes in a bit, where in a lot of cases, it's not about the actual money. It's really all about how they feel about it. So us trying to understand what are they going through, what kind of emotions, what kind of feelings they're going through. And that could be anxiety, it could be stress, it could be worrying, and where do they want to be? And in a lot of cases, really, it's just security and stability that always comes number one with a lot of women. Independence, they would like to be financially independent, not being a burden on their family or their children, parents, or anyone else, on the government. They would like to be in control of knowing how to do it, when to engage a particular professional. So they really want to have that situation. So we understand where they're at through conversations. And that's where interviewing is so important, really knowing what to ask them, how to ask certain questions, and how to get to the bottom of things. So that's probably the first part of our job, is to really get to know them as much as we can. And once they understand what we do, how we do it, obviously our process of working with clients, we then take them on that journey of really empowering them A lot of it is education. A lot of it is really just showing them how things are done, what options they've got, and pros and cons of all of those different options, and choosing, helping them to choose the right one for them. And
Mm.
financially, it could be the best possible option out there, but if they don't feel good about it, there's no point even going down that path. It's all about having that compromise, finding that balance between emotional need and financial need.
I love that combination of kind of the internal, what matters to me, alongside the, how do I manage my finances? So for someone who is listening to this, who is at a crossroads and thinking about their financial future, what would your advice be to them about how to navigate those financial decisions for themselves?
I think really starting with that conversation with yourself, and I'll always encourage writing it down. Write down what do you actually want in your life, and that's starting with your goals. We call them goals and objectives, aspirations. What do you want your life to look like? Where do you see yourself in 2, 5, 10, 50 years' time? Depends on the age.
Mm.
What kind of life, what kind of financial um, backup you would like to have? Given that we do work with a lot of women that are pre-retiree women, the biggest question we get is, when can I retire? So write down how your retirement looks like. And it could be financially, obviously, as well. So how much money do you need to live on? And if you don't have answers to those questions, that's when you can come and see a financial advisor, because that's exactly what we do. We help our women understand when they can retire, how much they need to have to retire on, and how much money they will spend in their retirement.
And it sounds like that it's also a process that requires some deep thinking on behalf of the woman herself about what she wants her future to look like, which is why I love having these conversations with you, Natalia, because, my interest is all about, what's that future you want for yourself and what's most important to you. And I work with women around those lifestyle factors, or the life factors, and obviously how women finance that and how the finances come into that is really important. So I feel like there's this lovely conversation you and I have always about those two aspects of future planning. So women obviously approach retirement, or some women approach retirement with anxiety about having enough money. So what are some of the strategies that women can utilize that help them become clearer and uh, gain certainty about their financial future?
I always start with their cash flow. So cash flow is money coming in, money going out. And at the end of the day, do we have a surplus or do we have a deficit? Do we know how much we spend? Because again, a very healthy cash flow will determine how healthy your future life is going to be. So it's really important to understand the very basics of your cash. And we call it cash flow or expenses. So that's kind of the really good starting point, because when the more we understand, if we are saving, for example, and I always encourage our women to save money, it's really important. Saving then could be channeled towards investments. Then those investments grow in value, and they generate that income for you in retirement. So it's all about building your wealth while you are still working, while you're still accumulating your wealth. It is important to put money aside, to invest money, not just having it all in cash, because obviously, even though cash is paying quite an okay interest rate now, but in the past, as we know, cash was really not a good option. But looking at structures such as superannuation, it is one of the most tax effective structures that is out there, and it was designed to help you retire. So it is already there, and your employer, if you are working for someone, your employer is contributing money into your super fund. So that super fund is growing for you, and just understanding contribution limits. And this is where financial literacy comes into play, really learning more about what you can do, understanding your options when it comes to building wealth, and also looking at risk. What kind of investments can I invest in? So it's those, and also what do I have in place if things go wrong? Like if I'm unable to work due to illness or injury, what is my plan B? Do I need to have insurances in place? So all of those, I guess, components of financial planning is really important. And again, I always encourage, obviously, to go and seek professional advice.
Mm. This is a bit of a left field question for you,
It's
but
okay.
when you and I ran a workshop together for your clients who are getting ready for retirement, you had your checklist of things that
Yes.
for women to know about. Can
Yes.
you tell us about those? What was on that
Yeah.
list?
Yes, and I guess this is just really, and I do like because it's an exercise. It's a bit, gives a bit of activity. People like it, but all the different rules and tax rules, for example, if you do have an investment property, you know that if you are to sell it, potentially there might be capital gains tax. Do we know what those rates are? Do we know what superannuation contributions rates are? How much can you contribute into super? And those, it could be very complex. But interestingly, so that was my questionnaire. And those particular clients were my clients, obviously, and where we try to educate our clients, we try to ensure that they know those rules and they understand them, even though we tailor, obviously, our advice to their needs. But it's still good to know those details. And it was interesting how some of our clients were very spot on. They did 10 out of 10. I was very impressed. Very
Yes.
proud moment. But yeah, so I guess some of that information could be quite daunting for some of our clients or anyone out there, and it is quite complex, and those rules change as well quite frequently. So how do we stay on top of things? So it's it is a challenge.
And I remember one of the items on your, and for those who don't know what we're talking about, Natalia had a beautiful tool. It was a bit like a quiz, I guess, wasn't it?
Yes.
With some key questions that to help women understand what their current knowledge is of the financial mechanisms that would be support them in knowing about their finances. But one of them specifically was around the aged pension. And it seems to me that it's not something any of us think too much about until we're getting closer to the time. But what should women be aware of as they're approaching retirement about the pension?
What's very interesting is that you're spot on. People don't really think about it, and it's not something that the government actively promotes. They don't really tell you that you qualify or you don't qualify unless you actually submit an application form. So you actually need to go to MyGovID and go to Centrelink or link Centrelink as part of your option and create a claim. And again, all of those rules, it's not something that people are aware of. And you've got obviously your age, certain age, when you qualify for an age pension. There are also so many other benefits, such as concession cards, that will help you to reduce your bills, health bills as well. That's as we get older, we've got more and more, I guess, health bills to pay. So that is something that we do see people coming to us and saying, look, I don't think I don't need an age pension. But and again, a bit of pride there too, they want to be self-funded retirees. That's
Mm,
great. But at the same time, if you could get a little bit of age pension, which is free money, and also if you could get a concession card that is going to help you to reduce your expenses, why not? I always
yeah.
encourage people to check their eligibility because it's a great way to improve your financial well-being.
Mm. So being aware of those sorts of supports that are available, are there other resources or tools that are available for women to help them understand and establish um, their picture of their financial health available?
I think it's a very good way to start. And most people, I think, search online these days. So it is a really good way to search online. Obviously, being very careful what websites you go to, but any government websites, it's a really good starting point. Um, and my GovID, again, that's something that I would start with. Try to understand. what other benefits you can get. Moneysmart.gov.au is a really good website to learn more about anything to do with money. And that's the government website. They put it together, and it's a great source of information. I would say
Mm,
podcasts, fantastic. And really, I think there is a lot of information out there, and
mm,
I feel like it's actually there's no shortage of correct information. It's really just about knowing sources of truth, because I think that's probably what is quite confusing, is that there is so much out there that people get lost and they don't really know who to trust. So yes, I guess, but those government websites, it's a good starting point. And also
yeah.
your superannuation provider,
Mm-hmm.
going to their websites, looking at the questionnaires and looking at some of them have really good tools in place, really good calculators,
Yep.
to understand your future retirement income stream or balance that you might have in retirement. It's a really good starting point.
Great. So I'm interested in the experience that you have when you have women who come into you. Obviously, there's a feeling of vulnerability and lack of confidence in those things, and then they start to know and understand their situation more and experience that empowerment that you want. I wonder if you could talk us through some of the changes that you see and what you're learning about from the women who come to you about about that empowerment and that transition to a more solid, empowered self that they experience.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a lot of it is learning and knowing. I think when women come to us, they just don't know, or they think they don't know. And as I've mentioned, they need that confirmation. Once they understand what's going on, they see how their life could look like. And we do a lot of modeling and projections with our
Hmm.
clients, show them their options and how those options, what impact they will have on their financial life. So it's very data-driven process. But obviously, we don't really try to overwhelm clients with too much data. We just show them graphs and sometimes pictures. So it's easier to comprehend, particularly when it comes to quite a complex financial modeling. Once they know, they can see it, it really helps them to feel more comfortable about their decisions. It helps them feel more in control because their brain was able to actually understand it. And that's what reduces a lot of stress and anxiety, because anxiety is caused when we don't know, when we
Yeah.
feel we are unable to do something because we just don't know. And that's what as I said, our role is to really help women to understand and to see it themselves in their own eyes and make that decision. So they make informed decisions, and then they feel comfortable about it and they feel confident and they feel at ease and they've got that peace of mind. So that's where that transition happens. And particularly, as you mentioned, I do work with a lot of women that are going through a transition, like such as divorce, separation, death of their partner, receipt of inheritance. It's a big one too, or any settlement money that they come into,
Mm,
or redundancies as well. So it is a transition, and it is very overwhelming, could be overwhelming, could be very intimidating for women. But once you take a small step at a time, you get used to a new position, you get more comfortable, you do come good at the end. You know what I mean? So it's a transition, and it's important to take it slowly, not to rush into things. It's important to educate yourself, to learn more about things, because that's how we get used to it. And when we get used to something, we become more comfortable with that.
yeah, I really love that. And as you were describing that, the thought that was coming into my mind was, you know, this is a time thing as well, isn't it? Because often if your clients are coming out of a big life quake,
Yeah.
something significant that's changed in their lives, then there's that adjustment period generally, and the understanding their finances and managing that is part of that. So over what sort of time frame would you say from someone coming to you to feeling that empowered sense of self? What sort of time frame are we looking at there?
Look, we do like 12 months as a as a kind of your benchmark. I think 12 months is a good time to, firstly, to help women understand, because it doesn't happen overnight. You're right, it does need to have a bit of thinking or reflecting on the conversations. So it's and you can still do quite a lot in those 12 months. So it could be shorter, obviously, depends on the situation. And
Mm.
sometimes we do get a lot of clients coming to us with a very much a one-off advice. So they just need that kind of one-off, which is fine too. But that is really more specific and potentially maybe not as life-changing, because you can't really do it in, in a couple of weeks' time. So it does require a bit of time. And but we've got clients that have been with us for 15 years. So it is yeah, it does require, I guess, a different approach. Every person is different. Yes.
Mm.
Yeah.
And what have you found different about working with women than in a general practice?
Yeah, and I know, and it's interesting how we, even though we specialize in women, I don't want to generalize it, because we're all different. And obviously from research, different research obviously shows that different women and men, they obviously go through very similar emotions and feelings. It's just we, I suppose, behave maybe sometimes differently. But I would say that the approach, from what I have experienced with my clients, women clients, is that it's how they like to communicate and how they like to be, the relationship, what's important for them in that relationship with their financial advisor. It's really that how they build trust, what they care about. And with a lot of our clients, for example, family values are very important, and they are, they're willing to gift before they receive. So we do see that a lot. So women, particularly when it comes to gifting to their children, the first question straight away is, how can I support my children? So that's kind of, where maybe with men, it's more focused on achievement. It's more focused on results and returns that they will receive from managing their investment portfolio. So I guess maybe it's a slightly different approach that women take. But yeah, it is certainly the communication style where women would like us to understand them first before, and trust, to build that trust before we can move on to the actual nitty-gritty of financial advice.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. And so for someone who is going through a major change and doesn't have the resources, I guess, to go to a financial planner or financial advisor, what other ways would you suggest they support themselves to go through to that that sort of financial literacy and getting in charge of their finances?
We've started seeing quite a few non-for-profits that help women.
Okay.
Yes, we actually had a client the other day, and she came from a non-for-profit that was fully funding her financial advice.
Mm,
Yes, which is fantastic. And I guess that's great. The other
okay.
source of information is superannuation funds.
Yep.
And given that superannuation is such a big part of our retirement um, wealth, it's good to start there as well. Although it will be related, it depends obviously on the superannuation provider, but it is a good starting point. I would say always learning, and as much as we don't want to know sometimes something, and it's because it does give us that anxiety, it is really having that growth mindset where, yes, it is challenging. Yes, I don't like doing budgeting, and I do like maybe spending on shoes and bags, but at the same time, it is important to understand that impulsivity is not our friend when it comes to financial well-being. And it's all about that delaying that immediate gratification. Unfortunately, the less obviously we spend today, the better our future is going to be. So I see that quite a bit where um, it's, yeah, it's learning, but it does, as we get older, we get better at that. and obviously our priorities change as well. So really superannuation is a good place. And look, pro bono advice. There are a lot of firms that do pro bono advice.
Hmm.
It's to get that as well, and hopefully financial advice will become more affordable. And with I guess social media and internet having access to information, you've got immediate access. So you do, but obviously you need to verify. You need to really make
Yeah.
sure that you don't, because there are a lot of spams, a lot of scams happening as well. So it's important that we do our due diligence. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I really appreciate you emphasizing that point again of understanding the source of where your information's coming from and making sure that it's credible and is going to be going to be most helpful. So you mentioned a growth mindset. That's something I work a lot with women on. Can you say a little bit more about a growth mindset when it comes to managing finances?
Well, I think the biggest one is the confidence, isn't it? Is yes, we can learn. Yes, we can change. And it doesn't happen overnight. We have to be patient, but it does happen. We can change the way and if we've made mistakes in the past, it doesn't matter that we can't change our future. So it's really just starting at any time. And we see women coming to us at any age, obviously. But even if, you think that your situation is not um, it can't be improved, it still can be. So it's really just kind of knowing that yes, we can change our life, we can change our pattern, and very important to also think about money mindset. Growing up, what was happening? How did we think about money? And as children, what kind of messages did we receive from our parents? How did our parents manage money? Because that's how we learn. We learn from our parents to manage money. So if we had a bit of a situation where money was a dirty word, or maybe there were some values that were quite, yeah. So I guess what I'm trying to say is thinking about the money mindset, and that's probably it's a good starting point. But yeah, really everything could be changed. So I would
Mm.
strongly encourage women to take that initiative. And alone, I know in a lot of cases it's choice. Um, and we change only when we have to, unfortunately. So that's just the way our brains work. We like comfort. We like maybe, not being uncomfortable, but it's important that, we do take those steps. And again, sometimes women are more risk averse. So we do encourage them to take that extra risk because that could have actually quite a negative impact if we are too conservative, if we do have everything sitting in cash, not earning much interest, and or your investment is in the cash investment option as well, and you still have years to retirement, so it's maybe not the right strategy for you. But again, it's really just understanding what is risk. So learning more about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that, and it's that knowing where your money values come from in from your past, whether it's your childhood and how you've seen money being managed in your family, to understanding how that's impacting and shaping how you're thinking about money now and how you're managing your money, and then being open to challenging that and changing that to be more in your favor now, and more aligned with your circumstances and what you want to achieve for yourself, and then making decisions accordingly. And that's that real sense that your script or the way that you think about the world is able to evolve and change as you evolve and change. And that some of the things we learn in our earlier life don't serve us so well anymore. And
No. Yeah, but our beliefs can be changed. That's the good
they
part
can,
of it,
that's
is
right.
that it could be just a belief. Is it true?
Yes. Is it
So
true? I love that question.
yeah, yes, yes, yeah.
So in finishing up, what's the one kind of big piece of advice you would offer to women over 50 as they think about taking charge of their financial future?
Good question. I would say learn, learn, learn. And if you make a mistake, it's okay too. Trial and error and take that risk, ask questions. I would say, yeah, be curious and take control of your finances. It is really important because we live longer and we need to ensure that we don't outlive our money and we don't rely on anyone to support us or provide for us. So it's very important that we are in charge of our destiny. So I've got something in my eye.
Okay. What I've really enjoyed about what you've shared with us today is the idea that we can have fears. We all have fears, but when you stare them in the face and you kind of really get behind that fear and say, what is it that's worrying me? What is it that I need to understand about this so that that fear goes away, that I understand this situation, this context, this whatever it is that's causing some uncertainty and fear is absolutely the pathway to empowerment. So thank you, Natalia, for sharing that with us. And also, I guess, what you've shared with us is some insights about what one might expect in working with a financial advisor as well, and the ways that you can support women over 50. And I'm sure that those listening will have much more insight, as I do, into the sort of work that you do and the sort of women that you work with. So thank you so much for joining me here today on Women Talk, Women 50 Plus Talk. And I really appreciate your sharing your wisdom with us here today.
Pleasure. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.